Right, in my previous video I did a quick demo of a custom TowerMadness map, and now I'm just going to do a bit more in-depth overlay of it and just sort of show you how to make your own if you want to go that far. So, phone disk, I mentioned it in the previous video. If you haven't watched it, you probably should watch it, but you don't have to. Just Google phone disk. It'll be your first entry. It's free for Mac and PC until December 1, and then from then on you'll have to buy it. But yeah, free, it's lifetime use once you enter the key that's on their site, Mac and PC. So download that, install it, get your phone plugged in, and phone, change connection route, and choose Madness. And then once you've done that, you'll get this. And here you just want to right click on your Madness app, show package contents. You get all this. Here's all your files for everything. So I'm going to use the micro. So the files for micro, sorry. So I'm going to select all 7 of them. And you'll note if you want to change anything here, you probably can. You've got any map. You can actually edit some of the models. I mean, this is all compiled formats, slightly different, so you can try it. I have no idea if it'll work. So I've copied these files already into here onto my hard drive, just because the phone disk interface can be a bit slow. And I've put all these files into Text Wrangler, and I've done a backup here. I would recommend you do the same, just so that you can copy them over if you bugger up a map and you just want to revert back. I mean, worst case, you just go into iTunes and reinstall. So here I'm in Text Wrangler, and the .game mode file of any map is the most important one. It is the one that matters the most totally, and because it's what the game looks for. So if you're flicking through and you click micro, or if you see micro when you're doing the left to right thumbing through maps, it will load up this file, load all the files related to it, and then display a map. And display the map, display everything about the description and short description. This is what this file's for that. You can't change it to a name other than the map's already in the game. So you can't just change it to myamazingmap.game mode and then hope for the game to see it. Won't do it. You need to rename an existing game mode or just overwrite all of an existing map, which is what I'm going to do. You can change all your stuff here. Just leave everything named the same. You can change your description and short description, lives, starting money, and your technology and your difficulty, but don't really bother changing anything else because, I mean, with a bit of effort you can modify the textures of a map, go for it, but you will have a couple of issues along the way. You'll need to do some renaming, go in, edit everything. I'm not going to go over that. So yeah, your atlas, material, PBR, and texture files, that's all related to your textures. A note on the PBR one, there are some PBR file viewers on the net. They won't work. You'll need to make your own iPhone app with the iPhone SDK from Apple. You'll need to actually import that PBR file, and then you can export it to a PNG file or whatever. Because Apple's PBR files for their phone, because they have their own hardware implementation of the textures, everyone's using it, but it's custom. So you're not going to be able to use the standard viewers. So I'm in the waves file for micro, and everything here. I showed this before in my previous video, but basically you can edit all this. It's all plain text. What I would recommend doing is just say for this one's for the critical, copy that, and then base everything off that. You'll notice generally as everything's going on, the size is increasing, everything's increasing here. But I would recommend just taking a few ones and continuously copy pasting instead of just trying to write it all out, because everything's based off only a few models, as you notice when you play the game. You've got your grey walking alien, you've got your critical ones, the fast ones, you've got flying aliens, you have flying, and then you've got all your bosses, and you also have the regenerating ones. And the ones that die, I guess you'd say, yeah, they respawn when they die, those ones. There's only a few basic ones, and then everything else in the game is just modifications of them. So now I'm going to go to the .map file, and this is where everything happens. Now just bring this into a line, won't make any difference. What you'll notice is, pretty much immediately, I already mentioned in the previous video, 0 is path, 1 is grass, but you'll notice immediately that the layout is flipped because if you've played the map, you'll notice it is in a counterclockwise way, starting that way and going around. Instead, this one goes around this way. Yeah, it's just all flipped on the x-axis, so if you edit by hand, you've got to know that. Your pads, entrance, and your pads are just where the enemies, your aliens are spawned. You can have multiple ones, however many you want. That game takes care of that for you. Entrance, that's what your aliens are looking for. If it's fixed path, like I've got here, it has to be placed on a path, otherwise they stand around and do nothing. And if it isn't, it still has to be placed. I'd place it right outside the enclosure, just so that you don't make it impossible. But yeah, you need to have that for it to work. You need to have at least one of everything for the game to load, except for doodads, which is just your textures. So when you're playing a game and the aliens are spawning, they spawn on sort of little crop circle texture. That's not included when you specify your landing pad. You actually have to specify it here. So there's your X coordinate, there's your Y coordinate. You can do some rotations if you want to, but yeah, it's just a 3D transformation matrix. So width and height, that's all there. You'll note that these ones are very big numbers, well, not very big numbers, but in comparison to the width and height, you'd expect the maximum to be 9.9 because it's 0 based. It's not, because everything's double for this one, because you get extra precision. You'll note when you're playing, like say when it's turning, like that corner on micro there. Now you'll notice a grid, but inside that one there's 4 little grid spaces. That's what the big numbers are based off. It's based off a sort of double grid. So from there to there is 20 instead of 10. There to there is 20 instead of 10. It works off those coordinates. As we'll see, everything again is flipped to the other side. So you need to think of that when you're designing it. If you'll design it one way, and you just design the whole thing according to one way and it flips, you can sort of ignore it because it works anyway. But if you want it specifically designed some way, you're going to have to think about that. And to think about that for me, I'm a lazy sod. So what I've done is I have made a custom application. I'll just rebuild it from Qt Creator because it's nowhere near done yet. So you'll see it's all pretty self-explanatory from here. Very early stages still, but I'm going to use this just to build a little 10x10 map. I can build whatever size I want. I'm pretty sure the game has support for infinite sizing. Don't take that as gospel, but I'm pretty sure it does. So I'm just going to build this. Yep, I probably should code in click and drag, but again I'm a lazy sod. Put the enclosure entrance there. You'll see the sort of subgrid there that this one's defined on, because I don't define the landing pad and enclosure on a subgrid because you don't really need to. But for the enclosure entrance you do need to, so I just render that there. And now just chuck some trees in. As for the codes, I'll just make a border. You'd notice that 0 was path, 1 is your sort of grass where you can build, and 2 is trees where you can't build. This works regardless of texture, so say if you're editing, I don't know, the volcano map, or I think it's Borderlands, which is a winter one, I can't remember, one of them. If you're editing anything like that, again, 0 is where the aliens can walk, 1 is where you can build towers, 2 is where nothing can go. So I'll jump into my text view here, copy this. Now it is different in the sense that it's not laid out perfectly, but it is still passable by the game, or works fine. So I'm going to just jump back into Text Wrangler, and I'm going to just change everything here. I should build in save support, but I'm a lazy sod. Also, right now I need to build this with fixed path as 1, because that had a comma. Paste, change that to a 1 so that they follow the path I've set, because by default my editor isn't editing it as a fixed path. My files are saved here. Copy, paste. Yeah. The Finder, when it comes to the phone disk, at least on the Mac, it runs a bit slow. You just got to watch out for that, but still usable. So I'll replace this. I have a feeling this might take a bit. And I'll just use some edit magic to come to the point where this is copied, and I'll now go to the phone. Okay, so now I've got the file on I've got the map file on my phone for the custom map. So I'm going to go in and just quickly show you. So open up Madness. That was a bit of a glitch there. So I'll go new, and as well, that's Frostbite. I can't zoom here. As you'll see, that is most definitely not micro. That is the custom map I've put in. So let's just quickly play it, shall we? Just zoom in, prove it works. Comes in, spawns fine. See the aliens going through. Put it in fast forward mode. I won't even bother to build towers, but it all works. Actually, I will. Yeah. Custom TowerMadness maps.